The dream of standing on a planet under a star other than the Sun has existed since we have realized that the Sun is itself a star. Visiting such planets has long been a staple of science fiction. These programs and movies make it look so easy that it looks like it is just be a matter of time before everyone will have their own private starship that will allow them to go any place in the galaxy at the push of a button. How realistic is this dream? Will we ever reach another star system? The number one problem that comes up with regards to interstellar travel is the tremendous distance between stars. Those distances are so great that they are measured in light years, which is the distance light travels in 1 year, and is equivalent to about 9 trillion kilometers. The fastest spacecraft we have traveling out of the solar system today would take tens of thousands of years to cover such distances. No real effort at interstellar travel is worth even trying unless it can be done within a human lifetime. Proxima Centauri is a star in a trinary system known collectively as Alpha Centauri, which is the nearest other star system to ours. The two primary stars consist of one that is slightly larger than the Sun and one slightly smaller. Their orbital distance ranges from slightly smaller than Saturn's orbit and slightly larger than that of Uranus. Proxima Centauri has a much larger orbit with an orbital period of about 547,000 years, and it is significantly closer than the other two. Proxima Centauri has 3 planets, but because it is a red dwarf star, it is highly unlikely that any of these would be habitable. Proxima Centauri C, with a distance of about 1.5 times that of Earth, this is far enough away that it would be a frozen ice world. Proxima Centauri D, if it is actually there, is close enough to its star, be extremely hot. Proxima Centauri B is in the habitable zone, but for such a small star this is close enough, way less than Mercury, that it is probably tidally locked, making it uninhabitable. The distance to Proxima Centauri is about 4.25 light years. That is about 40 trillion kilometers, or 8,770 astronomical units. Voyager 1 is approximately 166 astronomical units. This places Proxima Centauri 1,616 times further in Voyager 1, with a travel time, if it were heading in the right direction, of 77,568 years. The speed of light has been measured at about 299,792 kilometers per second. There, the speed of light is extremely fast, but it is still a finite speed. For example, the distance between the Earth and the Moon is 363,104 kilometers, with a round trip time of 2 4/10 seconds. If you listen to the back and forth audio between Apollo astronauts in mission control while they are at the Moon, you will notice this delay. Special relativity is one of a pair of Einstein's famous theories. Despite the fact, that it limits relative speeds to less than the speed of light because of length contraction is time dilations, you approach the speed of theoretical limit to how far the crew of the spacecraft could travel. In fact, if you accelerate at a constant length, or 9 8/10 meters per second, you could get any place in the universe within the lifetime of the crew. They would, of course, return to an Earth there's aged more than they have. Special relativity is based on the principle that there is no absolute velocity. It further postulates that the speed of light is the same for all observers regardless of their relative velocity to other observers. At its core, it is a very simple principle. However, it has some rather amazing consequences. One of these consequences is that it eliminates the concept of an absolute now. You can literally define now arbitrarily is anything from your past light cone to your future light cone. Now, relativity does not forbid going faster than the speed of light. It does, however, make accelerating up to the speed of light impossible. General relativity allows space itself to accelerate beyond the speed of light, taking objects with it. This is the essence of black holes. The formula for gamma, which in the formula on this graph is the square root portion, actually remains the same in relativity. In this graph, the difference in the two formulas is made to prevent imaginary numbers. Space and time are imaginary under normal faster than light conditions because space and time become imaginary, graphically switching places. This would not be a workable solution for space flight either manned or unmanned, because in this scenario the faster you go above the speed of light, while from Earth the time will be shorter. The time on board any ship would approach the speed of light travel time. As a result, with a superluminal particle it might make a superluminal communication system, but it is worthless for traveling. In fact, any speed greater than square root of 2 times the speed of light accrue would start losing ground, because that is the point where ship time and Earth time would be the same. Science fiction is filled with notions for faster than light travel, however most of them are simply plot devices with insufficient detail. Do you even guess how they work? There are 4 general ideas that at least have a hypothetical basis that provides some notion of how they would work, even if vaguely. Wormholes are a common science fiction trope. The number one problem is that they would either have to be natural or artificially produced, requiring large amounts of energy. In most cases, rather than being a black hole, they are depicted as being tunnels where space is stretched to the point where the distance through the wormhole takes a matter of minutes. Hyperspace jumps are an approach where they seem to jump out of our universe into a parallel reality where space is stretched out, reducing the distances between star systems. In such approaches, the ship disappears from our universe and reappears at the destination, often with little or no time being experienced by those on board. A quantum jump is at least based on actual physics. The idea is that you manipulate your ship's quantum wave function so that it occupies a point distant enough that collapsing your wave function to that spot would get you there faster than the speed of light. With this concept, you could produce small jumps, making it look smooth. The big problem with this idea is that there is no actual theory for creating such quantum effects on the scale of a spacecraft. It's at least an idea that could be seriously studied. Warp drive was made famous by Star Trek, and it is the only one that has a real theoretical basis. The basic idea is that you create a bubble around your ship of normal space while stretching out space behind you and contracting it in front of you. While this concept is founded on general relativity, it has 2 major problems. The first is that we do not know how to produce the effect. The second is that for a ship that can carry or crew, it would require more energy than has been consumed by all of human civilization. There are 3 realistic interstellar propulsion methods. Each of these have at least the potential of getting a ship up to a speed necessary to get a ship to Proxima Centauri within a human lifetime. They are light sails, nuclear fusion, and antimatter. None of them are even remotely close to actually being ready for such a mission, but they at least have the potential of being able to do the job. Antimatter propulsion is the most efficient rocket possible. Not only is it total conversion of mass to energy, but that energy is in the form of gamma rays traveling at the speed of light. It would be potentially efficient enough to get a ship fast enough where relativistic effects become significant. The major problem with antimatter is getting sufficient quantities to actually propel a spaceship to relativistic speeds while storing it safely. Nuclear fusion uses the energy source of the stars themselves to produce the energy necessary to propel the spacecraft. Unfortunately, when users are normal rocket, even fusion power can only get you up to about 20% speed of light and back down again. This means that it would still take at least 25 years to make the trip, depending upon how fast you can accelerate. It does, however, mean a round trip within a human lifespan. A nuclear fusion ramjet, depicted here, can do a better job sweeping up interstellar gases to maintain a constant acceleration, but it has its own issues that will not be possible to overcome. This is one that, while the actual study called Breakthrough Starshot would take longer than human lifetime, that is 121 years. This approach, though, has the potential of being powered up for larger vehicles and shorter trip times. Its main advantage is that you are leaving the engine at home, so you do not have to accelerate it. However, its main disadvantage is the humongous output and focusing on the lasers that would be necessary in order to get it to work. It would still take more energy there, has been used by all of human civilization. Unmanned missions are a lot easier than manned missions for several reasons. The first is that you can send an unmanned mission with no intention of bringing it back. The second is that the survival of an unmanned vehicle, while useful for gathering more data, is not as critical as the survival of a crew. In the case of an interstellar mission, you could send a bunch of smaller probes with the realization that a fair fraction of them are going to get destroyed. You can't do that with a manned mission. The most likely possibility for an interstellar mission would be a series of unmanned probes that would take 40 to 80 years to make the trip. Once there, they would either have the means to slow down or they would go whizzing through the system, getting what images they could at such high speeds. Of course, there would be the possibility of following up a high-speed mission with one that would slow down into orbit and then send probes to any planets. A manned mission would only be likely to occur if we found a planet with life on it in a nearby star system. A manned interstellar mission would be extremely expensive and probably would not be wasted on anything less. That said, as far as propulsion is concerned, it would depend upon what is available at the time that could get them there and back in the shortest possible time. The likelihood of any kind of an interstellar mission ever occurring is extremely small. That is because short of any extremely inexpensive breakthrough in propulsion, even sending an unmanned mission to another star system in a reasonable amount of time would probably be more expensive than could ever be funded. This means that even the nearest star is probably going to remain forever out of direct reach. They will be continued to be studied remotely as we get better and better equipment to do so. In conclusion, the answer to the question of whether or not humans will ever travel to another star system is most likely no. Now, it is possible that some new technology may be developed someday that may change that, but there is nothing looking at the current laws of physics that would suggest it. The energy requirements for every possible method suggested by established physics would exceed the energy used by all of human civilization, probably by several orders of magnitude. Even the generational ship would be extremely hard and expensive and require lots of energy. The simple fact of the matter is that the stars are simply too far away for there to likely ever be any practical way of reaching them. If you like this content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, please help support this channel. See the description for details.